Hey everyone, thanks for clicking. Welcome to a new video. Today we're talking all about drugstore makeup favorites. There is so much new product at the drugstore nowadays. It's so overwhelming to actually figure out what's worth it because sometimes return processes for buying makeup in store not always the most fun. So I'm going to tell you my absolute favorites from the drugstore. You pick these products up, I don't think you're going to be disappointed because they really do compete with high-end. Let's go ahead and actually start with a mist. This is a great prep mist but also for a setting mist. From Pixi Beauty, this is the Dreamy Mist Jasmine and Lavender. They have so many different types of these mists. This one is my favorite because I really like the scent. Some of them are a little too fragrance for me, but I really like this more lavender scent. So it says that it's an overnight mist. You can honestly use it whenever. I used it to set my makeup today and I feel like it just made everything look really perfected. They also have a makeup setting mist. You can't really go wrong. They're all pretty similar. It's super simple and does the job. So it's one I've just always repurchased these and had them on hand. For primers, I actually don't have a pick because I'm not a big primer person. And you know, if I were to pick one at the drugstore, it would probably be the e.l.f. Putty Primer. I've only tried the original, but that's a nice smoothing option if you do really need a primer. But moving into foundations, this is such a hard category for me in terms of shades and formulas. I have 3 here that I really like. Starting off, we'll go the most full coverage and sort of go down from there. This you've probably heard me talk about before, the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop Full Coverage Foundation. We had this baby on today. It is really matte. It is full coverage. This is the shade Pale. So I always like to give some warnings with this formula almost. Only get this if you want something that is full coverage and matte. If you don't want those things, then I would avoid this. It can also be very, very finicky in terms of what you pair it with. If you put the wrong skincare under it, it's gonna look patchy, it's gonna emphasize pores, and it will look so weird. So if you do have this and you tried it and you were like, it looks horrible, try different skin prep. I swear it's not the foundation. It's just a really finicky formula that only works with certain things. But I have it on today. It is so full coverage. It's so smoothing. It really is truly a matte formula, and it's sort of like the Estee Lauder Double Wear of the drugstore, I would say. And if you have very fair skin and you have a hard time finding a shade at the drugstore that is not too warm or too pink or orange, this shade from NYX, it's called Pale. Hopefully you can see it on my skin and in the bottle. It's just very, very almost on the warmer side. It's just like so neutral. It doesn't pull any sort of way, which is really flattering. It's almost basically too light on me, which is a rarity. So check that one out from NYX if you want that full coverage glam type of vibe. Next, if you're looking for more of a hydrating everyday formula, this is from Maybelline, the Super Stay 24-Hour Skin Tint. All of these picks, by the way, are paraben and I believe fragrance free. I am very sensitive to fragrance, especially in foundations and chemical sunscreens. So all the ones I picked here are paraben free, fragrance free, and no chemical sunscreens or anything. So this is the Vitamin C 24-Hour Skin Tint. This is the shade 110, which is slightly dark for me. That's sort of the con with this one, is the shade range for if you're very fair like me might be a little bit hard to navigate. Also, the packaging on this is really annoying. It gets all gunked up around the sides. And I will also have to mention that for the next one, the pump gets clogged. I have to declog it with like a pin every time. I know these are drugstore favorites, but like they have some caveats in terms of the packaging. This is really beautiful and thin. It does have a slight glow to it. If you can see in the bottle, it gives you a little bit of luminescence, so it's definitely not matte. This does not wear super duper long on me. It says 24 hours, but it does start to bunch up around my chin. But honestly, I've been having that problem with almost every single foundation. I feel like my face is just like eating makeup. But this one is like really standard if you just wanted something that could wear a moderate amount of time and looks really pretty and glowy. It claims that it's a skin tint, but in terms of coverage, it is more of a medium coverage, medium light buildable. I'm not a skin tint person. Like, I like having some coverage to my products, so if you do too, I think this one might be a good pick. Next up, this one is really thin and has even less coverage than the Maybelline one, but it doesn't have that sheen that it does. It's still dewy, but it doesn't necessarily have the pearl through it. It's the Revlon Skin Caring Foundation. This one actually has really nice packaging. It just comes in this pump. This has 5% squalane and hyaluronic acid, so it's a really nice skincare based product. shade 105. This one is also slightly light for me. I usually have to mix a couple of these. It's really hydrating. It does last a pretty good amount of time. I would recommend this one if you have like normal to drier skin. If you're very oily like me at the moment, I don't know why my skin randomly got so oily, but I do still use this, and if you set it with a powder, it looks really pretty and skin-like, not super makeup-y. Moving along into the concealer category, I actually have some correctors here, so let's start with those first. Pixi by Petra, the Peach Corrector. I feel like this is such a hidden gem from the drugstore. Pixi is like sort of on that higher range of drugstore, but I feel like drugstore prices in general have been a little bit high lately. This is the Brightening Peach Corrector. It's just a creamy little pot of under eye corrector. I was so surprised that this does not interfere with my concealer or make it crease. It is a bit thicker, so it's nice even if you have dry under eyes, and this little thing will probably last you forever. Really recommend this one. Now if you want something a bit more thin and hydrating that you can maybe use all over the face, the e.l.f. correctors can't go wrong. They are so affordable and come in any shade that you would need them in. I have the yellow one, I have the blue one, I have the green one. They give you this nice hydrating feel, and the fact that they're thin makes them so layerable, which is really great because I don't want a super heavy corrector, right? Like if I'm doing an extra step, I want it to be thin, and these are perfect for that. It kind of makes you use less makeup, which is really interesting. For concealer, I did consider Honest Beauty as drugstore because you can find it at Target, Amazon, even though it is in that slightly higher range, so just keep that in mind. This is the Honest Beauty Fresh Flex Concealer. I don't use this under my eyes because it does crease, but as a face concealer, this is really beautiful. Again, one of those more hydrating formulas that has medium buildable coverage, so it's not going to end up looking super dry or cakey. You get a really nice glass tube here. Like, this feels much more expensive than it is. It's such a pretty formula, and I really enjoy this one. Next is like a tried and true, whether you get this version or the hydrating, kind of depends on your skin type. The e.l.f. 16-Hour Camo Concealer. CoverGirl also has one that's similar. This just, it's so affordable, it's full coverage. It does crease slightly on me and it can be a little bit heavy, but it's so workable, and you can thin it out and get it to look just really flawless, and you can't beat the price. It's the e.l.f. Camo Concealer, by the way. I don't think I even mentioned the name, but you probably saw it and knew. Drugstore powders can be a super weird one to figure out, especially if you don't like fragrance products. A lot of them have like weird fragrances to them. I have two here that are really tried and true. First up, the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Translucent. First off, this is a huge container of powder. It is 20 grams. It's almost a full ounce. What's just so crazy about this is it's so affordable and it's so good. It has like a very slight tint to it, but I'm super fair. Obviously, I have this on my face and it doesn't really change the look of my foundation too much. It's not a super thin powder, but it's also not super thick. It's sort of just that in between. Under the eyes, it is so smoothing. That can be one of the most difficult things to find, I think, is an under eye powder that does not make things look cakey, and this one is it. I actually ended up picking this up on a trip because I forgot setting powder, and I was like, I guess I'll try it, and I ended up really liking it. So this one is a really good one from Wet n Wild. Now, if you do prefer a tinted powder, I really love the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powders. If you have fair skin, the shade 05 is super duper brightening. You can use this under the eyes, you can use it all over the face. This I primarily use as like an additional finishing powder almost. I will set with something like the Wet n Wild and then do a little bit of this under the eyes or areas that I want to brighten. But I do feel like it also works pretty well just on its own, which is really rare for me in terms of powders that have some color to them. End up being pretty cakey, but this one is not. Also just lasts a really long time. Moving into cheek products, another product from e.l.f. that I really love, Halo Glow Beauty Wand, the contour. This is the fair shade. They just really nailed the shade of this. It is a true cool tone contour, which is amazing for us fair skinned people, and they do have other shades if you have different skin tone, but yeah, it's an amazing formula as well. It's not too pigmented, which in terms of contour is really helpful because it makes it look more natural. It's really blendable. The only things, like, I don't really like the sponge tip packaging. Could be nicer in something else, but still like a great product. Also, let's talk about some bronzers. The Milani. If you want a matte bronzer, this one's great. Sunlight Silky Matte, shade 01, nice and light. It is slightly warmer, but in terms of drugstore bronzers, it's definitely like one of the best out there. It's silky, it's smooth, it does have a slight fragrance to it. I know I said these are unscented, but this does have a slight fragrance to it. It smells like the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, but like maybe like a fifth of the level of that scent. It's only if you really get close to it. I don't notice it a ton on my face, but it is still there, which is a little bit annoying, but really pretty matte bronzer. And of course I had to mention the Flower Beauty Heatwave. Mine is broken, also counting Flower Beauty as drugstore. They're at my drugstores, but they're also slightly higher priced. This is the Heatwave bronzer. It is so beautiful. If you want something with a little bit of shimmer, I absolutely love this. You can tell because I've just completely broken this packaging, and this is very well used. It has some marbling in it. It just is the perfect like big bronzer formula and feels way more high-end than it is. Next is like a real OG makeup product. If you have fair skin, you might have tried this like 10 years ago. The NYX Sweet Cheeks Matte. These are their blushes. I'm not sure they still sell this. I will have to check. But the So Taupe shade, which is, this is a blush, but it's called Taupe. If you have fair skin and you can't find a contour that is cool enough, this thing is like basically gray. Like it is super cool tone. You have to be very, very careful with this, but if you need something to fill that gap, that is definitely the product for you. I do have this on today very lightly. I layered other bronzers, so it is a bit more warmed up. But yeah, that one is a good one to check out. It's completely matte as well. Highlight wise, this made me realize I haven't tried a ton of highlights from the drugstore. I've tried the Pixi ones, which I like. Those are quite metallic. I decided to mention this one from Catrice. This is the Supreme Rose Beam Silky Smooth Highlighting Powder. This one is also very metallic. I've yet to find like a more natural highlight from the drugstore that I like, because most of them I have a really hard time finding a shade that's light enough. But this one is really pretty. You can see it just gives you that like very wet look type of highlight. If you're into that, really good pick. Let's talk about brows. 3 favorites here that I absolutely love. First is the Maybelline Express Brow. This is just one of those micro pencils. I have this in my brows today. The shade Taupe is a really good shade. Usually for me when I'm picking a drugstore pencil is like the formula is important, but the shade is really important. I used to really like the NYX Micro Brow, super similar to this. I just couldn't find like a perfect shade. The Taupe was a little bit too dark and cool tone for me, but this one is really nice. And then we also have the e.l.f. Instant Lift Brow Pencil. This is very, very affordable. This shade's not the best, slightly warm, and it has more of like a round tip, so it's a bit thicker. It's more of like a, if you need something to fill in your brows really quickly, but for the price, can't beat it, and I do reach for it a lot. And then if you want something to add detailed brush strokes, the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Tint Pen, also in the shade Taupe, is amazing. I have it right in the beginning of my brows just to do some like hair strokes. It's really precise. It doesn't run out quickly, just top notch. Moving into eyeshadow, this was another category that I had a little bit of trouble with, and I was like, I need to try more stuff from the drugstore in terms of eyeshadow, but I do have a couple picks here. First, the e.l.f. Bite Size palettes. These are 4-pan palettes. Really, really great formulas for the price. You're not gonna get like amazing Natasha Denona level shadows, but this color story is really pretty. I actually have a comparison of these to the Charlotte Tilbury palettes because they came out with some very similar colors. They're super basic, but they do the job. I also really like the Pixi shadow palettes. Now these are a bit more like sheer. The shimmers are more of like a, they have that sheer base to them, so they're more of a topper. Same goes for the mattes. They are so silky though. When you're like touching them, they feel like they're almost like a cream. So if you want something that's a bit more sheer that makes them like a lot more workable and beginner friendly, these are actually really nice. They're not going to give you like amazing pigment, but they work. I also really like these tiny little e.l.f. glitters. These are called the, I don't know what they're called. I will have to, it says not for use in immediate dye area. It's definitely supposed to say eye. That is really funny. But anyway, this is the shade Disco Queen. It's just like their little glitter product. It's sheer, so it's not like, you know, gonna blow you away, but just as a topper, it's really pretty. For eyeliners, I would say 98% of the time I'm using a drugstore eyeliner. They just are basically the exact same. At least these ones are as high-end. First, you probably heard me talk about these before, the NYX Epic Wear Liner Sticks. They're amazing. They do not move. They have so many pretty shades. This one, Rose Gold, is one of my favorites because I like to do it on my lower lash line like I did today, just to like have a pretty sparkly look. I like the metallics. The mattes are great as well, but the metallics are just really fun to play with. And then another product from NYX, the Epic Ink Liner. If you need a pen liner, this one is a brush tip, which I love, not a felt tip. And they have a brown and black one. It's waterproof, it's super thin. It's a total dupe for the KVD like tattoo liner. It's the same thing, just from the drugstore, $10 cheaper. And then this one was like a really surprise hit for me. The Hard Candy. I had not tried anything from them in a while. Stroke of Gorgeous liquid liner. This is the purple one. So I have the purple one and the brown one. These have a slight shimmer to them. The matte versions of these are not good, but the shimmer versions with like the sparkle, not the sparkle, just like the metallic packaging are really great. Again, super thin brush tips that do not budge and last amazingly. Only gonna mention one mascara because it's my ride or die. Maybelline Sky High. I use the brown. They have a beautiful brown shade. They also have various different colors in black, and they have a waterproof formula. They're all amazing and they last. They do not flake. I have it on today. Gives you that like separated, pretty, more fluttery look. It's just really pretty. I've tried so many of the other like popular drugstore mascaras that they don't work on me. Like they do not last. This one actually does, so check it out. If you need a mascara, almost guarantee that you love that one. Finishing in the lip category, I actually have quite a few stuff here. Let's start with the lip balms. Naturium Phyto Glow lip balms. You can find these at Target. They have so many different shades. They're just a really nice moisturizing lip balm. If you want something with color that's not necessarily lipstick, for sure check those ones out. Ooh, I also really love this Flower Beauty lip tint. This is the Bitten Lip Stain. These are highly, highly underrated. I feel like no one talks about them. They're really hydrating lip stain that do not wear off. You can wear these under lipstick or just on their own with a gloss. They're so pretty. I have multiple shades of these and they're always a go-to. Also really enjoy these Honest Beauty lip crayons. I have a bunch of these. This one I picked because it's the least messy. That's a con with it, is it kind of gets like all over the packaging. This one is red and look how pigmented that is. Like these are, see, just totally ruined it. They're like more juicy in terms of the finish, but they definitely do still have quite a lot of pigment. They're so easy to throw on and really hydrating. Two of my favorite lip liner formulas are the NYX, just the regular lip pencils. I don't like the suede ones. Just get the standard ones. They're just a really classic wooden pencil. This shade Nude Beige is really great if you want more of like a neutral, cool toned lip pencil. What's my hair doing? But anyway, yeah, they also have so many shades of these, but if you're going in like not knowing the shades, you might want to look up some swatches to see which is the best for you. But Nude Beige, Nude Truffle, those are my favorites. ColourPop Lippy Pencil, this one is Cool BFF. They also have the regular BFF. If you don't have as much trouble as like lip liners pulling warm, you could do that one. But this one is just, this is my absolute favorite lip liner shade. Honestly, it's just more of that like neutrally purple that looks really flattering. For lipsticks, I don't think you could go wrong with the Flower Beauty lipstick range. Either of these formulas. This is the classic one. They have matte and satins in this packaging. This is the Naked Blush shade, I believe, which is a really pretty pink. And then these ones, these are literally a dupe for the Victoria Beckham lipsticks because they're super shiny. Like these are definitely more of a very satiny type of formula. And oh my god, these feel so high end. The packaging doesn't, but the formulas really do. Oh, this one is Blush Rose. It just has such a pretty sheen to it. If you want something that's matte, that's not gonna budge, people always talk about the Maybelline like liquid lipsticks, but I personally hate the scent of the Maybelline lip products. So if you're similar, Revlon Color Stay, the matte light crayons, these are a matte crayon, so I feel like they apply a little bit better, and they are basically like liquid lipstick in a crayon form. They don't budge once you put them on. They're also not too much of like a drying matte lip. They still retain some life to them. Ooh, also really love the Honest Beauty liquid lipsticks. This is such an OG classic favorite of mine. The shade BFF, because it's more of like a neutral cool pink. So that's the shade there. These are actually so similar to the Urban Decay Vice Bond lipsticks where they don't dry completely matte. They leave you with a slight sheen, which is amazing because it makes them look a little bit more lifelike but give you the longevity of a liquid lipstick. And then for glosses, two classic faves. Pixi by Petra, any of these, but this one I really like, the Sheer Rose. They have so many different shades. These are a bit more on the pricey side, but the packaging feels really nice. And they have more of like a pepperminty vibe to them, which I like because I don't like those overly vanilla type of flavors. It just feels nice and plumping. And then another one, the ColourPop So Glassy lip glosses, another like lip gloss that doesn't have like a disgusting scent to it. Very similar formula actually to the Pixi one. more of like a sheer, like it has a bit more body to it. It's not so liquidy, but it's also not super sticky. It's just like that really good in-between formula. Those were all of my drugstore products that outperform high-end. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. All the products will be below, and there'll be 2 videos on the screen here. If you want to catch some more content, I will see you in one of those. Bye.